Welcome back here to another episode here at Airbnb Rental Empire. I'm excited to be here as always with you guys. I love making these videos and presenting you guys the information that I have. Right now, what I want to talk about is Airbnb's earnings release that they just had the other day. So this is the most recent earnings that they just released that gives guidance and tells you how the business is doing, which is obviously important information for us in the hospitality industry as well. First off, their numbers were very impressive. Airbnb is showing 20% year-over-year growth of their business. This is extremely strong, especially for a business that is at this point pretty mature. They're still growing, but it's a mature business that is a household name at this point. So the first part about this report that jumps out at me is that their average daily rate was up 5%. The fact that these ADRs, the average daily rate was up 5% despite headwinds in the industry, I don't know if you necessarily view it as a headwind, but the fact that people are going back to urban areas and those rates are going to be lower than they are in other areas, in these outside areas, national parks, these big houses out in the country and that sort of thing. These rates are going to be lower in the city because there's simply more supply. So the fact that those rates were up 5% despite people coming back to these urban city centers, that is a strong sign for Airbnb and for the business as a whole. And Expedia also, who is the parent company of VRBO, that's also a very important player obviously in this short-term rental space, they also reported their earnings the other day, and they reported no slowdown in travel spending, and in fact it's accelerating. So that is a good sign, especially as what I think we're already in a recession or heading into a recession. The fact that people still have disposable income to spend on travel, that is a great sign for us. I won't take a lot of time to talk about this, but I do want to let you guys know that AirbnbRentalEmpire.com is now up and running, and there's a lot of stuff there for you guys. A lot of people have been asking me about coaching and mentorship opportunities to get into the Airbnb rental arbitrage business as I have done, growing my business to over $2 million annually, and that is now available for you guys. Now, another part of this earnings release that jumps out at me from Airbnb is the fact that they are seeing more cross-border travel. They have seen an increase across the board from last quarter. This is super important because obviously prior to COVID, we had a lot of international travel, which then stopped because of the COVID pandemic, but now that seems to be coming back. They're seeing a pickup in international travel, and they're also seeing longer lead times, which is another sign of that because people who are doing international travel are going to book a little bit more in advance. As I touched on my other video as well, if we start seeing this travel coming back from the Asia region and China in particular, we're really going to see an uptick from these international travelers that's going to make a material difference in our business. Another part of this report that is kind of interesting is that now Airbnb has released this part about transparent pricing, so people aren't getting all these fees tacked on to the price that they see when they're searching for a booking, and then these prices are jumping out at them because now you have cleaning fees and Airbnb fees and taxes. They have this thing, transparent pricing, and they've rolled that out. They did say that they haven't noticed any material difference from that, and that's not a surprise because it is still something relatively new. It's pretty funny though because their idea of transparent pricing still does not include taxes. So how can you say that that is fully transparent if a guest is going to have taxes, which can be very significant? It can be anywhere between 10 and 20% depending on the city. That jumps out at you after you're looking for the booking. That to me is a surprise, and there's nothing transparent about that. Now, another part of this report that jumps out at me and the earnings call after is that Airbnb, again, they are going to be focusing on lower priced properties, and they're going to give these a priority in the algorithm. This is something that we need to be mindful of, especially if you're in the Uber luxury space where you're charging a very high nightly rate. We have to remember Airbnb has full control of this algorithm, obviously. That is the lion's share of many people's Airbnb business or short-term rental business is Airbnb bookings, of course. You know, there's also VRBO and these other platforms as well as private bookings for some people, but the majority of it is coming from Airbnb. So if they all of a sudden stop showing your listing, that can really affect your income in a dramatic way. So overall, from this earnings report from Airbnb for fourth quarter 2022, this was another awesome report for the company, showing 20% year-over-year growth, which is a lot for a mature business such as Airbnb. They did guide down a little bit on their average daily rate for 2023, which I don't think is that surprising, especially as more people are coming back to urban centers like we talked about. That is going to drive down the rate because there's more supply there, and those rates are generally going to be a little bit lower. They also mentioned in that vein that they're expecting people to be shopping for better deals and looking for better value. And that doesn't surprise me because if you are going into an economic slowdown, people are going to be careful about how they spend their money, of course. One last final part about this that I think is very important is to remember that international travelers in 2022 were only 63% of what they were in 2019, and that number is picking up. So we still have a lot of room to grow from the international travelers, just like I talked about in my other video about the China effect and the Asia region as a whole. This is also going to be people coming from Europe, and that's going to drive up our revenues from the international travelers, which is something we haven't had in the last few years. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, hit like, and also send me your comments because I want to help you guys grow your business, be better operators, as well as get into the business and increase cash flow for those of you that aren't in the Airbnb business yet. I'm excited that we recently launched the website. It was a little bit overdue, but now it's available and there is coaching opportunities available there. There's also some wonderful products there that is going to help people quite a bit with getting into the space and elevating their revenue if they already have an existing business. Thanks again for watching.